Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold, while I hoard internet cringe. Today we're gonna do something a bit different. Normally I like to do the longer stories, but I've realized something, dear listener. RPG horror stories come in bite-sized packages too. And you know what they say, it's not about size, it's how you read it. I got 3 stories for you today, so how about we go ahead and dive right into this Triforce of Cringe, shall we? Our first story stars a player who joins a D&D group only to discover that it's only got one woman in it, which isn't a problem on its own. But throw in a DM who suckled a bit too much man milk from the teat of the manosphere, and you have a game destined to tumble into hell faster than O.J. Simpson the second his heart rate monitor flatlined. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG horror stories. Enjoy. Story number 1 comes from Reddit user WholeResolution5678 and is titled DM Demands to Know a Woman's Body Count in Session 0. About 3 months ago, I decided to suck it up and drive down to the game shop after years of making excuses due to the distance and my hectic work schedule, which is thankfully now a lot more orderly. It didn't take long before I found someone who was willing to DM. He was a regular on Saturdays and was also desperate for some D&D, so we both agreed to get a game going. He got his game announced on the Game Shop website, and in 2 weeks we had 8 players, 7 men including myself, and 1 woman. She ended up playing the only female character in the campaign, a tiefling warlock, to which the DM said, "Oh, the horny race." She gave him a cringed look and then said, "I'm just here to kill ASMR, lol." DM then laughed really obnoxiously. And then there's me, a halfling wizard. Session 0 was basically an intro session for our characters, and the DM let us explore the sort of hub town of the campaign and talk to some extraplanar spirits, which were basically there to tell us some campaign rules in a unique way. No metagaming, funky dice, etc, etc. As we continue talking, the extraplanar spirits go over our character sheets and iron out any potential mistakes, and let some really unfortunate players re-roll. But then this spirit asked the tiefling, "So, I am reading your backstory, but I haven't seen anything about your body count. Mind clearing that up for me?" She then said, "It's not important." He then said, "Oh, it very much is," with a wicked smile. She awkwardly chuckled and said, "Stop being weird, you're not getting my body count." DM then said, "Oh, come on, it's relevant to the campaign. Your sexual market modifier will be influenced by it." I wish he was joking, but he actually showed us the modified character sheet with, yes, a sexual market score and modifier. She started obviously getting pissed and pointed out accurately that he didn't ask any of the male characters or the genderless plasmoid about their sexual history. And he said, "A key that can open many doors is a master key, but a lock that opens for many keys is a lock." He then started joking about how Confucius and Aristotle both lived by this quote. And this jackass started laughing like he was being funny in an irreverent humor kind of way. Nobody else was laughing. He then shook his head and said, "Fine." He then looks directly at her with a shit-eating grin and says, "Let us see how ran through you really are." He looks down at his dice bag and grabs it. "A natural 20 means you're a virgin, but a natural 1 means you are for the streets." He then proceeded to keep laughing at his own jokes as she just shook her head and left, before me and a couple other guys followed shortly after while the DM rolled, and then started trying to get us back by trying to pivot and claim it was a joke, and he just has a up sense of humor. He gave up after a while and just played with the remainders until he could find adequate replacements. We ended up doing another game a few weeks later with a better DM, and we ended up actually becoming friends. TLDR, DM tries to find out a character's body count in session 0 through a ghost NPC, thinking that he can find out how ran through the player was. We left and played our own game and became friends. End of story. God, I just f***ing hate that master key analogy that refuses to die. Yeah, a key that opens many locks is useful, but that does not change the fact that you're going around opening random shit that other people locked for a reason. Normal people call that breaking and entering, and people who make a hobby out of doing that tend to be massive piles of shit. Men and women are different from one another, and anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is delusional and they know it. But acting like being a degenerate is somehow a unisex occupation is just fucking stupid. But let's not kid ourselves here. This guy's master key is probably as effective at opening stuff as a wet spaghetti noodle being shoved into a padlock. And for those people watching this video from the back of the short bus, that means not at all. It should definitely go without saying, but once someone makes a boundary clear and communicates, "Hey, you're making me uncomfortable, knock it off," you're done. Game over. You don't have to go home, but if you keep driving your car down the road you've chosen, you're gonna end up getting thrown out the windshield when you hit a brick wall called the consequences of your actions. But what you don't do in the face of being told that you're a weirdo is try and turn sexual promiscuity into a game mechanic. Your market modifier will be influenced by me. How about you modify your attitude and get some bitches, eh? And then this slimy bastard tries to follow it up with, guys, I was just joking. You guys already know that I'm all for irreverent humor because I think the clowns have taken over the circus and I live to laugh at clowns. But for f***'s sake, there needs to be some humor in your irreverent humor. Without that, it's just being irreverent with no point. And most people just call that being a dick. F*** this guy. Story number 2 comes to us from Reddit user ThatWaterAmerican and is titled "Party Refuses the Call to Adventure, Calls the Police Instead." I was excited to have my regular group try a Call of Cthulhu one-shot. I had hosted a few Call of Cthulhu games before, but just not for this group. This was also the first time for our forever DM, the one from all my other stories, as a player character. I spent hours on prep and felt like a f***ing idiot. The party were all college professors whose colleague had gone missing. They went to his office and found a bunch of evidence, sending them to various leads. Specific names, addresses, handout letters I made, puzzles to solve, the usual plot hooks. The other players start pouring through the evidence and picking up names when Forever DM says, "This is a crime scene. I call 911. 911 will not exist for almost 40 years. Then we should leave without touching anything and go to the police station. I reiterate that there is no evidence of a crime occurring. It's a normal office and they're ruffling through papers. There's no evidence of foul play. Yet. Moreover, forensics is a new field at this time, and they would not be familiar with evidence procedure. The other players agree that talking to the police is what their characters would do. So I break character to tell them that they can explore the police as an option, but the adventure will inevitably require them to be the ones picking up the pieces. When they get to the police station, I describe drunks, hookers, and mobsters awaiting processing. There's no direct evidence that the guy is missing or in danger, and his wife has not reported him missing. The police do not give them the time of day. The police tell them to check in with the wife if they're concerned, and they give the party a home address. The party doesn't do anything with this. I even give them an idea roll and tell them to go to the address. Forever DM says, "I open a phone book and find the number of a private detective." The story takes place in New Orleans, so I can't say that there's no detective nearby. Instead, I try to price them out of it. The detective is only interested in cheating couples. He asks for $50 a week. The party members each make $20 to $40 a week, so he is asking for about half of their total income. Forever DM says that everyone can pool their money together, and the others shrug and just go along with it. At this point, the gears start turning for how I can pivot this back to the adventure and raise the stakes, so I just go along with it. The detective takes their case and says that he'll give an update in a week. The party does nothing in this time. 1 week later, the professor is still missing. The party calls the detective, but he doesn't answer the phone. The next day, they go to his office to give him the next payment. The window is smashed and the door is cracked. The room was tumbled. They find all the evidence from the professor's office strewn about the room, some notes from the detective that gives them some direct next steps, mentioning a specific archaeology artifact, a location, and a person of interest, hint hint, but no sign of the detective. I thought that this would push the party to investigate now that they were essentially out of options, and right back where they started. I gave them another idea roll and directly told them to follow up with the person of interest at the museum. The Forever DM says, "This is officially above our pay grade. Now we definitely need to go to the police station to report." I looked to the rest of the other two party members, since they had acquiesced to his reasoning. I told them in meta sense that this is not going anywhere. If they don't pick up the pieces, there is no adventure. Forever DM literally says, "It's what my character would do." Go f*** yourself, DM. I told the party that this is the game. The characters need to be willing to take risks or accept the call to adventure. If they don't, well, we're done. The Forever DM says, "I just don't see the hook. I don't see what's supposed to drive a college professor to accept this kind of danger. I think I'd like to end it here." And that was it. I did a week of prep, hand-wrote notes, made maps, etc., to have our Forever DM give me the runaround and yank my chain after directly telling him and the others to play the game. Twice. Afterward, the other two players told me that they didn't feel that they, the players, were clever enough to solve the case, especially since the combat isn't as cartoonish as 5th edition. I retorted that they didn't even try, and that I had given them multiple idea rolls to give them direction. So we closed the books and played Munchkin instead. I was incredibly embarrassed. End of story. Is it just me, or does this feel like straight and unapologetic sabotage? Either that, or this guy is so much of a Forever GM that his literal player character is still a non-player character. Oh my, this is a plot hook, isn't it? I better make sure the heroes of the story know about this so they can... Oh no! There is a gentleman's rule at an RPG table that you should try and help out your DM by navigating your character in the general direction of the plot. Not only is that going to result in you, I don't know, playing the game, but it will also mean a lot to the DM, who has no doubt put a lot of time and effort into creating a narrative that will resonate with their players. My character wouldn't want to expose himself to eldritch horrors. He is way out of his depth here. That is the point of Call of Cthulhu, numbnuts. I'd like to give you the benefit of the doubt, buddy, but there is no way you're that stupid. What the Forever GM did here was such a huge f***ing slap in the face that Will Smith took a break from watching his wife have sex with other men to give him a high five. The audacity to say, as a player, "I think I'd like to end it here," is baffling. Homie's got such horrible control issues that he's going out of his way to sabotage a game for the sole crime of it not being his greasy butt in the GM's chair. As a Forever GM, he knows damn well that you're supposed to make a character that's gonna engage with the plot. Hot take, but it is not the job of the DM to make the plot of the campaign relevant to your character. It's the duty of the players to make characters that come invested in the plot and setting right out of the box. And it's your responsibility, OP, to kick this guy's ass in Munchkin before deleting his number from your phone and never inviting him back for another session. Our third and final story comes from Reddit user SRS Juiceman and is titled, "The Time I Was Deposed Because I Refused to Run a Game for My Friend's Ex-Wife." This story has primarily three relevant people: myself, the Forever GM, Adam, and Eve. I have a dedicated group of 4 friends who have been gaming together since the 80s, and Adam has been with us the entire time, even as our gaming group has grown more sparse with the demands adult life makes on our time. Adam met Eve, and she wished to sit in on our game night. After watching a few sessions, she asked if she could play. It's always good to add more depth, so of course we said yes. For the next 8 years, we gamed Star Wars, Walking Dead, D&D, and a good time was had by all. Just before the pandemic, I got the Alien RPG. I love the series, and some of the players do too. I workshopped games set on a space station. One of the players is a true crime junkie, so the plot would be a murder investigation into a real murderer that crossed paths with an alien. I read up on serial killers and decided to have the human be a more typical killer of vulnerable women. The poor, the disenfranchised, etc., etc. We spoke about the campaign and laid out the very adult themes that would be presented to make certain that everyone was aware and could veto content. Everyone was cool, and I started building. I asked Adam, one of the better role players, if he secretly wanted to be the murderer, and he leapt at the idea. Everything was all set and ready. Then the whole world shut down. Thanks, virus of unknown origins. Months later, we tried doing the game over Zoom. The group starts playing, but there's something subdued about the way Adam is playing. I figure it's probably the fact that we're all in different places and looking at screens and trying hard not to talk over one another. It was fairly chaotic and hard to keep looking down at little video frames. After the session, he asked if we can change the story so that he is not the killer. I assume it's because he has realized that talking about it was way different than actually playing it out, but I was wrong. Turns out his wife had cheated on him and they were headed for a divorce. He was so angry about it that he did not feel like he was in the right headspace to be playing a woman-hating murderer. I, of course, canceled the game. Eve was angry. She was adamant that everyone could get along and play the game. It was one of the most awkward conversations I've ever had in my life. She honestly believed that we could just carry on as though everything was fine. When I wouldn't budge, it got ugly. I received texts and emails harassing and insulting me. She even tried to use the dark storyline planned for the Alien game to try and claim that I was targeting her specifically with content designed to upset and attack her. Something she tried to take to her lawyer to show that Adam had been emotionally abusive. I was furious, but also relieved that I have an audio recording of most of my sessions. Easier than taking notes, and I can go back and listen to RP conversations that players have while I am doing something on the side with another player. Yes, I had to be deposed because I refused to run a game for my friend's ex-wife. TLDR, husband and wife players have a contentious divorce, and the DM gets drug into the legal fallout. End of story. Wow! What a twist! The insufferable harpy who cheated on her husband turned out to be a bad and manipulative person. Who could have seen that coming? Leave it to the cheater to be like, "Oh, ha, wasn't that a quirky little mistake I made? Oh boy, I sure learned my lesson. I'm so happy that everything is back to normal, right guys?" What? You want me to be accountable for my actions? Oh, well, that sounds a lot like emotional abuse. Hope you like living with half of your stuff, dickhead. Personally, I have a sub-zero level of sympathy for people who cheat on their partners. It's a great way to communicate that you're such a piece of garbage that you're willing to betray anyone or anything just because of the horny. Especially considering how it's like the worst thing you can do to a person that you're supposed to be in love with that will not net you a criminal record. Which I guess Adam is well aware of since he had the self-awareness to think that maybe now is not the best time to roleplay as a woman-hating serial killer. Especially considering how this psycho's lawyers are now watching a private RPG game with the same fervor that some terminally online people watch Critical Role. It's not exactly a secret that the American judicial system hates men with a fiery passion, so the odds of, "Oh, look, he's role-playing as a character, why wants to kill women. Quick, someone take all his money. Getting brought up in court is damn near 100%. It sucks that your game group got tanked because Eve wanted to go play with someone else's snake outside of the garden, but making the call to just sink the ship instead of doing what Eve wanted and pretending like the boat isn't filling with water from the hole she poked in it was definitely the right call. Shout out to OP for choosing loyalty to your friend over a dice rolling game. I know it's a hard decision, but it definitely means a lot to Adam, and considering how he's trying to undo putting a ring on Crazy, he's gonna need that support for a long time. But you know what I'm gonna need for a long time? That's right, fan art! How about we take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake? This week's fan art comes from viewer Ali Mocha, whose artwork depicts... Look, I know what it is, but I don't know if I have the strength to say it. Whose artwork depicts waifu Drake. You know what? F it. If you send me your credit card info, I will go ahead and mail you a body pillow with this on it. Trust me, that is definitely what's gonna happen.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to my hot tub stream. Oh, a $200 donation from CringeLover69? Aw, you're so sweet, baby. Keep sending me money and I'll keep pretending like I'm not utterly repulsed by you.
Okay, Drake, I went ahead and— oh God! I told you to knock before coming in here, you little— oh, there is no way the donations just increased. You people are f***ing freaks! Thank you again, Ali Mocha, for submitting your art. If you'd like to see your fan art featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the stories over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and send in your fan art. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, my Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.